Okay, so let's take a look at this accept or reject decision. Let's say that Chavez Co. produces and sells duffel bags. They price them at $60 a piece. Chavez received a request for a special order for 500 duffel bags at a price of $48 each. The current unit cost to produce the bag is $32 a piece, direct materials $20, direct labor $8, and unit-related overhead of $4. Chavez Co. has the capacity to produce the special order. However, one additional production line will be required, costing $2,000. Should they accept the order? Why or why not? Okay, so let's take a look at each of these things. We'll get all these priced out and put in our model. So our selling price is $48. Less unit costs of $32. That gives us a contribution margin per unit of $16. Okay? Times the quantity of 500. That is a total contribution margin of $8,000. Now, we have to set up an extra batch, so that's an extra cost for us. That's that batch cost, batch-related cost. That's $2,000. So $8,000 less the $2,000. The profit on the order is $6,000. So Chavez should accept the special order because the relevant profit is positive. They are going to make money on this, so they accept the order. Even though they're selling these at $12 less per unit, they're still selling in such an enough quantity, and they only have to run one additional batch that it makes it worth their time to accept this order. The next one is a make or buy decision. So Whitney Inc. manufactures unique hand lotion formulated for extremely dry weather. It also makes the containers that the lotion is sold in. The production costs for the 15,000 containers needed annually are as follows. Direct material $35,000, direct labor $15,000, unit-related overhead $5,000, product sustaining overhead of $6,000, and allocated facility sustaining overhead of $14,000. The supplier, a supplier has offered to provide all 15,000 containers at a price of $4.50 per container. If they accept this offer, it will rent the released space for an annual rental fee of $12,000. This is their opportunity cost, right? So should Whitney Inc. make or buy the containers? Well, we'll break it all down here. This is the make portion right here. You have relevant costs of $12,000. So here you can see our opportunity cost. We increased it by $12,000. That's because if we make the bottles ourselves, we are losing out on $12,000 of revenue, basically. So we're going to add that into our cost. We're going to lose that money. It's increasing in expense, so we're adding it in, essentially. Think of it that way. If we were to buy it, all we need to do is take into consideration the $15,000 plus the $4.50. Remember, we are just looking at costs. I know somebody will ask me about that opportunity. Well, what about adding that $12,000 to this? That $12,000 would be revenue for us. We're not going to add it into our buy option. We're only going to look at how much it's going to cost us for the entire 15,000 unit batch. In this case, if we bought them, it simply costs us $67,500. In this case, Whitney Inc. should buy the containers. Okay, our relevant costs are less than if we made them. Now, finally, I said that we would talk a little bit about Chapter 5, and we're not going to talk a whole lot about it. This will be the only thing that you need to know from Chapter 5. It covers a couple of pages out of that chapter. So, when we are trying to determine what our selling price should be, we have to take some other things into consideration. These are the more qualitative aspects of it. So the first one is we need to look at our customers from the customer's perspective. This is essentially their willingness to purchase a product based on the pricing of the product. If we price it too high, we basically price ourselves out of customers, okay? Especially if they're non-staple products. If they are things like luxury items, tennis shoes, designer clothes, vehicles, that kind of thing, we will typically lower the customer demand for that product if we price them too high. Now, things like eggs, as some of us that grocery shop every week are familiar with, that won't change demand, at least not enough that it matters. The next thing you got to look at is your competitors through the learning and growth perspective. Okay, so the prices that we set on products are determined at least partially by what's happening in the market with our competitors. We have to monitor, we have to learn from our competitors in the market, right? We're going to change our prices depending on the prices that our competitors set for similar products or replacement products. So we've got to watch them. If we have competitors that are going out of business, we're going to figure out why. Are we following a similar model? And if so, we may need to change things up. Did they invest heavily? Were they early adopters of some kind of technology that did not work out for them? These are the kinds of things that we will look at. Finally, you got to look at legal and social issues through a learning and growth perspective. So you're going to have to monitor and learn from any legislation, any social issues impacting the market. So these are big things right now, right? So legal issues would be like limitations being set on monopolies, oligopolies. If people are engaging in price fixing, which is essentially companies in an oligopoly getting together and deciding that they're going to set prices really, really high or set certain prices really, really low to knock other competitors out. You cannot price fix. The book goes into a little more detail on that if you're reading through the text. Price gouging is another one that you got to look at. This is essentially what would happen if, let's say, we had another really bad ice storm here in Springfield and Lowe's still had generators, and instead of selling those generators for $400, which is their normal price, they jack the price up to $2,000 a generator because they know they're going to be able to sell them even at that price. It's taking advantage of the market, and there are limitations, legal limitations for that. The next thing also, though, are these social issues, and that is a big deal right now. I know that in the accounting world, we talk a lot about DEI, that diversity, equity, and inclusion. We talk a lot about green, right? Is a company green? Employees in your age group are very interested in green companies. What are you doing to help us sustain the planet? That kind of thing. So these are all issues that you're going to look at when you're trying to determine a selling price. So let's talk about its cost. Right? It's an internal process. We've got to monitor it. Prices, we set them partially based on how much it costs a company to produce and distribute that product. Right? So part of determining the selling price is how much did it cost us to make. Okay? Here we can see a few different ways of calculating that. So selling price is your cost plus your cost times your markup percentage. Then your selling margin would be your selling price less your cost. That's very similar to our contribution margin formula. And then your selling margin percentage is just your selling margin divided by your selling price. So whether a company decides to determine the selling price based on their market or the cost, the market being their customers, cost being their costs, they'll use one of four different strategies. They'll use penetration pricing, which is essentially, hey, we're going to price this product really low at the beginning of the life cycle simply to get in and get some market share. That's penetration pricing. They're trying to penetrate the market. They're trying to get a market share by pricing the product fairly low. The next one is skimming pricing, is kind of the opposite of that, right? So during the early portion of the product's life cycle, we may introduce it to the market at a higher price. What this typically does is it attracts people like collectors. It attracts people that want to be early adopters of technology. You'll see that I remember, and this is, I'm old if you remember. So when like LED and LCD TVs first came out, and the idea of a flat screen TV first came out, you could buy, like, I remember I really, really wanted one to go with my Xbox 360, and it was like a 27 or 32 inch flat screen TV, and it was almost $1,500, right? Probably closer to $2,000. Now you can go buy a 27 inch or 32 inch flat screen TV for $100. So, they were skimming that early market. People that wanted to adopt early, they were having to pay higher prices. Then you have what we call life cycle pricing. This is when you introduce the product to the market based on estimated total cost. And the book will walk you through how they do that. But it's the estimated total cost of the product over its entire life. So the thought process of this is kind of, as the product gets older, it costs less and less to produce. It costs less and less to distribute. So we may not make as much money on it up front, but by the end of its life cycle, we will have made much more money. So that's the life cycle pricing. And then finally, we have target pricing. So target pricing is when they introduce the product and they base it on estimated selling price less the estimated markup. So this just essentially says to them, hey, it helps them to determine what should the cost be that we can incur and still generate profit. This is kind of maximizing, right? Any of you that play video games probably familiar with the term min-maxing, and that's exactly what target pricing is. They are min-maxing that target price so that they get the most profit at the lowest cost. So, that is all for chapters 4 and 5. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to answer them.